Hey guys, my name's Austin, also known as Basement Horrors, and welcome to True Horror Stories number 24. Today I'll be telling you a few EMT and police stories, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Story number 1, by penguinluvinman. I used to work as a 911 operator in a relatively large metro area. One night at about 3 a.m. or so, I answered a call from an elderly lady who said she didn't feel good. I tried to get more info about what was wrong. Chest pain, trouble breathing, headache, is she diabetic, etc. She gave me her address and phone number and said no one else was home, but the front door was unlocked so they could come in. I toned the call out as general illness and kept trying to get more details. No matter what I asked about what was wrong, all she would say is, "I just don't feel good. Can you send someone to help me?" After a few minutes, she said, "I'm going to put the phone down for a minute. I need to go to the bathroom." I tried to get her to stay on the line with me and told her she can do whatever she needs to get ready, but I'd like to be able to stay in contact in case there's a problem. She said, "I'm just gonna put the phone down. I'll be just a minute." And that was it. I stayed on the line and asked for her every so often, but got no reply. A couple minutes passed, then the fire department called on scene, so I just disconnected and didn't think much about it. Told them the caller advised that the front door is unlocked and that she was in the bathroom. And a couple more minutes and one of the firefighters called over the air with a weird tone and said, "Dispatch, how exactly was this call received?" I told them that the call was first party from the patient's home approximately 8 minutes ago. He didn't respond over the air, but called the desk from his cell phone, which usually only happens when something is going wrong and they don't want it broadcasted so that anyone can listen on the radios. On the phone, he said, "Are you sure this wasn't a third-party call from a family member or something?" I said, "Negative," caller advised, "I don't feel good," and said no one else was home. So, to the best of my knowledge, the caller is the patient. Have you made contact? He said, "Yeah. She was in the bathroom like you said, but she's probably been dead for about 12 hours, cold to the touch, fully livid, fully rigor. We're gonna need a deputy out here." Afterwards, we pulled the tapes of the radio and phone calls and checked the timestamps, address, phone number, and went over everything a few times to see if I missed something. I called them back in the morning after the shift to see if they had any more info, but they were just as weirded out as we were. The phone was still in the living room, and the patient was dead in the bathroom. Story number 2, by Lucille Bluth, 15. I volunteered as an EMT in a small village just outside New York City as a senior in high school in my first few years of college. This night in particular, we were on call for not only our town, but the surrounding 2 villages, who were out of service. One of these villages isn't exactly the best neighborhood. Now, generally, we always have a police officer on every scene we go to just because they can get there faster. This time around, though, in this bordering village, there was a fire on the other side of town and some sort of crime investigation elsewhere. Basically, police department resources were stretched thin. A call came in for a 25-year-old male with a facial wound at a private residence, with instructions that the patient was in the backyard. We were dispatched and told that there was no police department available and no advanced life support available. It was just me and my driver. Note that this is standard in most agencies. It just felt very unnerving for me. So, we get on scene, and it was an apartment building with an open yard in the back that we could drive onto. My driver pulls onto the field, and he sees the patient sitting in the shadows as though he was hiding. Something felt off, and that feeling prompted me to hit the floodlights on the ambulance, illuminating most of the yard. The moment the lights came on, we saw 5 to 7 men with tire irons and baseball bats standing in what was once pitch blackness. My driver hit it in reverse and we got the hell out of there. I got on the radio and called for immediate assistance. Turns out, those guys were planning on jumping us, stealing the narcotics from the ambulance, and taking the rig for a joyride. Poor planning really, because we don't carry narcotics on a basic life support ambulance. To this day, I fear what would have happened if we had just walked up to the patient. Story number 3, by fineillmakeausernam. Cop here. I've posted the story before, so it may sound familiar. I was dispatched to a house at about 1 a.m. for a prowler. We get there and talk to the residents. Long story short, they saw 2 people wearing masks. One Jason-style hockey mask, I don't remember the other, in the yard across the street. It was like 2 weeks past Halloween, so it seemed believable. We check the area and don't see anything. It's worth noting, the residents didn't seem crazy, drunk, or high at all. A few times you'll get a similar call and get there to find the resident is strung out on meth and seeing things. However, back to the story. An hour later we get called back. This time we have our dispatcher on the phone with him while we are surrounding the area. We, about 5 of us, are in a perfect position. Dispatch tells us they can see the prowlers in the next yard. We start to move in. Dispatch says the residents saw 2 prowlers wave and move into the shed. Guess where I am? That's right, by the shed. I give verbal commands, bang on the door, and nothing. Fuck it. Fine. I'll come in after you. Door's open and nothing. I even think to check for a trap door, and there's nothing. It is raised about 4 inches, so there isn't even a possibility of a door leading out. Again, check the area and find nothing. I talked to the residents. They said as I was moving in on the shed, the 2 put their finger to their lips, giving the shh sign, and then they both waved. They moved into the shed as I was next to it. We went over every possibility, trying to come up with an explanation. If the caller was just fucking with us, they had no prior history of it, as in repeated calls for service at the address. I'm not much of a believer in the paranormal stuff, but I can definitely appreciate a situation where I cannot logically explain what just happened. Story 4, by LXIV. I've shared this story before. Searching that house was definitely one of the scariest things I've done. I've been a cop for a while now, and this is one of the calls that still haunts me. I get a call for a domestic assault that had just occurred, and I learn that the victim is at the neighbor's house. I get there and find the female victim's throat has been cut from ear to ear. The neighbor is holding a towel up to her slit throat, and the victim is struggling to breathe. The paramedics are on their way, and I take over holding the towel for the neighbor. I'm trying to apply enough pressure to reduce the bleeding, but not so much pressure that I'm strangling her. It was a delicate balance. Quick law lesson. You know that there are laws against hearsay, right? Basically, I can't testify in court about the events that someone else has told me about and I didn't witness. The person who witnessed it would have to testify it. One of the exceptions is what's known as the dying declaration. If someone is on their deathbed and believes they're about to die, their statements are exempt from the hearsay rules. I have some serious doubts that this woman is going to live. I want to ask her who slit her throat. In order for it to qualify as a dying declaration, I need to be able to testify that she believed she was about to die. So I asked her 2 questions. The first was, "Who cut your throat?" Which she answered. The second was, "You realize you may be about to die?" She answered yes. Our eyes locked, and I still remember the emptiness in her eyes. Within a few minutes, the medics show up, and my partner and I went next door to look for the suspect. The door was ajar, and we could hear a baby screaming. We went in with guns drawn, and the metallic smell of blood was overpowering. We made our way upstairs, past smeared bloody handprints on the walls, and found the child upstairs. He was unharmed, and the suspect was long gone. Thanks to the excellent performance of the medical staff, the victim survived. I met with her a couple weeks later, and I was very apprehensive to speak with her again. I had basically looked her in the eye and told her she was going to die. When she opened the door, I could tell that she didn't recognize me. She had very little memory of what happened after she was assaulted. I told her who I was, and she hugged me, crying, and thanked me for saving her life. The suspect ended up pleading guilty, so I never had to testify as to what I told the victim that night. It still haunts me to this day.